What is up, my fellow parents? How's it going? Welcome again to the Sean Donohue Show with my homie, my bro, my friend, Jordan Seal. What's up, Jordan?
What's up, Sean? How you doing?
Oh, how am I doing? I'm a 43-year-old grown man. I'm grown up.
I
You're a
don't know
30,
about
you're
that.
a 35-year-old grown man. Who'd have thought we'd be sitting here in front of a computer screen when we were kids doing a podcast about parenting, family, and good vibes? Who would have ever imagined that this would be our destiny, our future when we were younger, huh?
They say you should never stop learning, right? As we get older, we just have to constantly keep, and I'm still learning how to be a parent. So the only reason I'm here is just to learn.
Dude.
Maybe I could
Oh,
pass some wisdom, but I'm just learning is what I'm
oh
doing.
man, we're all learning. We're all struggling. We all have ups and downs. Gosh, today we're going to talk about some of the pros and cons of these family outings, family trips, fabulous freaking family time. Oh, isn't it great? Just when life is so good with your family and family time and outings, you just look around and it's like all is right in the world. And then when it's not, it's like, oh, the pain, man. It
It's the
hurts.
thing. Yeah, or it's like all of it is pain, and there's like two little moments of beauty that make it all worth it. It's like
All of it
golfing.
is
It's like golfing, and you're
right.
when you hit that one shot, and you're like, I'm coming
True.
back. I'm gonna do it again.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go camping again.
Yeah, you
It was
gotta.
miserable, but
Ah,
there was one smile, and now I'm doing it again.
exactly. It's so true. I remember one of my earliest family memories is, being a new dad was a big shock for me. I was so good at being a bachelor, just being on my own, just have my own selfish endeavors, my hobbies, my routines, my vibes. And one of the things I would always do is I would go camping a lot with my buddies. And man, when you're camping with buddies as a bachelor, it's not a really that hard. Like, it doesn't take a lot of planning. You just
No
throw some
planning, right?
stuff into a
Right.
cooler, into a bag, and then you go. So I was super excited to go camping with, my one daughter's like family camping trip. This is it. I've been dreaming my whole life to go camping. And oh man, what a disaster. I don't really want to go into it. I'll start crying right now, but I didn't bring very much gear, right? And I was taking care of my wife and my new daughter. And my
Yeah.
wife was miserable because we didn't have enough this or enough that or enough this and that. And then she's telling me, I don't know if I want to go camping anymore. I'm like, what have I done? What have I done? I spent all this energy and dreaming up for this moment, and it was like a disaster, right? But that is like so common with like family outings and trips. It actually is.
Well, also, I mean, with that being said, I feel where you're coming from, but I'm trying to maybe invoke wisdom on the other party who always expects to have everything when you're camping. But to
Yeah.
me, that's why we go camping, is because you don't have everything. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I
Right.
forgot the dang pillow. All right. Use your
Right.
sweatshirt, roll it up, and put it in your sleeping bag.
Yeah, at the same time, I don't blame these adults that say, like, why would I take vacation from work to go sleep in the dirt and be super hot or super cold and then have to take care of all these kids eating dirt and running away? And I kind of, at my old age now, I don't blame people who hate camping and love it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's anything to get out there, but yeah. And I'll tell you a story later about our camp. We went camping this summer, and it's like you have to pack a freaking apartment complex
It's
just to go for a night.
It's nuts. If you want your wife and your kids to enjoy camping, you gotta gear up. But you know what? Any vacation you look at, you can find something wrong with it. Complain about going to the Bahamas or to Mexico or go to Disney. There's a gazillion things to want to
Right.
complain about freaking family vacations.
Don't get me started on Disney. Like, if you walk around my house, everybody knows Jordan is the dad
Yeah.
that does not like Disney.
Oh,
And
I want to get started. You're
I,
started, so zoom up because there's a lot of dads out there that nerd out on Disney. I'm not one
there
of
are.
them.
And you know what? I
So
think it's one
many.
of those things. You either love it or you hate it. But here's my problem with Disney. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
those magical moments, they really are magical,
They
right? You
really
get a
are.
moment, you
They
see
really.
Mickey, and you're like, oh my gosh, let's
Yeah.
take a photo real quick.
Right.
And it's truly magical. But let's not forget what you have to do to go to Disney. All right. If our wives think camping is hard, Disney is hard. You got to
Tell me.
find a place to stay. You got to not only go and park your car at Disney Resort, but you got to pay $400 to park
Dude,
your car.
You got to
Okay?
save your buckets to go to Disney nowadays. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Then you have to walk a quarter of a mile just to get to the gates. Once you're at the gates, you have to walk another 3 miles just to get to your ride, just to wait in line for an hour while you're
Right.
trying to entertain your kids to
Right.
go on the ride. The ride lasts 15 seconds. And obviously, I'm exaggerating.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
you're like, hurry, we got to go to Space Mountain, next to Space Mountain. Then you're going to Space Mountain. You just get to Space Mountain, and they're like, I got to go to the bathroom. Okay, let me run to the bathroom. Okay, we're back in line. I'm hungry. And you're just like,
I know.
what am I doing here? Why am I doing all this
I
work?
know.
You go on 4 rides a day. Crazy.
And then you have those days where in the end, you're there late and you only went on like 5 rides. It's like, what the crap?
And then you're exhausted. And everyone's like, this was so worth it. See, that's why I would much rather go camping when it's quiet. I'm away from people. I can take the kids fishing. So we're not going to Disney this summer.
Yeah, what are you doing? What are your summer plans, man?
My wife did the Disney thing. I think it was, in the spring, and I'm like,
Okay.
I'll stay here. I stayed here. So we're going to go, first trip away, man. All the COVID stuff's kind of quieting down. Thank the Lord. And
yes,
to go and show the kids what real monkeys are like outside of a cage. So we're going to Costa Rica.
Oh yes. Costa Rica. Oh my gosh.
We got, the twins. They're both 8, the 3-year-old. We're going to go down to Costa Rica. We're going to rent a car, drive on the bumpy roads, go all the way to the Oso Peninsula, which is by Panama.
Sounds dreamy.
I know. I can't wait. I want to snorkel. I want to fish. I just want to be on the beach. I want to surf. That's my vacation.
Love it. Well, I mean, that sounds like a whole family fun, man. If the kids just do well in the sun and your wife does well, that sounds awesome. Any other big trips around the country or local staycations? Who else you got going on?
Yeah, we try to take the kids, camping with the other neighborhood kids once, maybe once twice a year. So we get, a couple campsites. We rent some RVs because we know what it's like camping with ladies now.
Oh, fun.
A couple RVs.
Oh, that's cool.
The boys can stay in the tents. I'll bring my boat. We're gonna fish.
Yeah.
We're gonna water ski. So we do that. I'll get the kids in summer camps. I think that's important. And
yep.
And then just try to push them outside as much as possible. We
love
swim
it.
We're in Georgia. It's hot. We love swimming.
Yeah.
So we'll get them to the pool, and that's pretty much how our summer consists of.
Love it, man.
You doing anything?
So I'm big planner. I love to plan stuff. And in fact, I always print out a calendar and I plan out, our family outing. So we're leaving tomorrow morning to Cancun, Mexico for a week. It's the biggest trip we've taken in 3 years. We saved up for it. So all inclusive resort, super pumped. I got a spear gun for my in-laws for Christmas. So I have this. So my story with that started with, I was in Hawaii several years ago. I found this really big stick and I chiseled it into a really dangerous, weird looking spear. I'm walking around the resort and I look like such a weirdo. I was like, I kind of look weird. People are looking at me. So I put a towel on the top and I would walk around with a towel, and I didn't catch any fish. So then I graduated to one of those 3-prongs spears where you put it around your elbow. Caught 2 fish that way, but the big fish were always like a foot away. So I got a spear gun. So I'm gonna go snorkeling and hopefully catch some dinner, even though it's all inclusive, but it'll be fun. So that is a big deal even. And then other things was, we got 2 country concerts planned for this summer. Really pumped about that.
Wow.
We're going to Yosemite as a family. I got a backpacking trip with some buddies later this month. Got a men's Lake Tahoe trip. We're going to Airbnb with some buddies for some barbecue and some nice hanging out. We'll be at a wedding in Oregon. And then, big part of my life is our pontoon. We got a pontoon over the quarantine, of COVID, and it's just totally changed my life. I'm like in love with pontoons. So I take, if you think about it, what you can see what you're serious about by how you use your phone and how your calendar. People calendar and they plan ahead for things that are serious, that they plan. Some people, and I really, I take family time very seriously. So I think it's really important we all be really intentional about family time and family vacations. We invest in it because this is it. This is our time, right?
Do you think the investment you're putting in, you can see the impacts in your kids right now?
Oh, absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to there is ways to thrive during the challenging teen years. And one of those ways is to invest in family time and family trips before they get to be teenagers.
Right.
That way, when they go off, and you have family times and trips as a teenager, it's part of their culture. Like this is what we do. And we get off our phones and we do these things we make these memories and we live it up. But gosh, as we both know, as everyone knows listening, your family trips can be actually extremely painful. So hard. So let me ask you, just like, what comes to mind when you think about like how hard family trips are, or just family outings? Because your kids are younger, than mine. And no matter what age our kids are, even like when they get to be in their 20s and maybe they're bringing their boyfriends or girlfriends along, it can be really challenging. What comes up for you, man?
So for me, it's the planning process.
Okay.
Just making sure we have everything. And like I was complaining earlier, whether you're going for one night or you're going for 3 nights, you got to pack the same amount of stuff. And it's just like, and do the kids help with packing? No, they might pack their own stuff, but they'll always forget things. So you have to remember as parents. And then, they're at the stage now where, they don't care if they stay. They don't care if they go. They're just like, we'll do whatever. And so I make sure I kind of force them, like, no, we're going camping this week. We're going on the boat, And I'm like, no, but I'm like, once they're out there, they have a great time.
Right, man.
And so the emotions that come with that of just like not all coming into an agreeable decision can be a little frustrating.
Oh, so they can whine, they complain, they can argue on the car rides.
The parents, car rides are big. Anything, and I've realized anything over 4 hours, they really are getting cranky.
Yeah, man.
So it's really up to the parents to make sure your mood stay good. This is my perspective, so that you don't get cranky with the kids. And then, one more thing, I got to go on this tangent real quick.
Do it.
Road trips. You get on a road trip, you're ready to go. You got everything packed. You're like, let's hit the road early. 20 minutes.
That sounds like me. Yeah.
20 minutes in, Dad, I got to go to the bathroom.
Oh my gosh. And you were already waiting there for like an hour, like, ready to go.
At the house.
It already said it. I already told you, kids. Right.
Right.
Of course, you hit a word that you said, a word that really get me going. You said the word emotional. Remember, parenting is never about what it's about. And I'll give you some tips when we come to Ask the Families Coach section about how to thrive with these parentings. But yes, so one of the ways I want to help you listening here, and I want to help all my clients and members of the Parents Clubs, always help them to look underneath the surface, right? And you can really look under the surface in your own life, in your own heart, in your own mindset, and ask us, what is happening to me? Why am I thinking this way? Why am I reacting this way? What am I feeling? Then you can better do that with your kids. So parenting is so freaking emotional. So let me ask you, so everybody, I have everyone who is a private client of mine or in the Parents Club, they get so many amazing tools. And one of the best tools is this packet I'm holding it in my hand right now. It's called Being the Best You. It's a EQ assessment and toolbox for kids all the way up to adults. And I asked Jordan to take it. So Jordan, you answered just one of the questions here. We're going to share your answers with the listeners here. Is what are your buttons that get pushed in parenting? So what are the emotions that Jordan Steele really hates feeling in parenting? And so oftentimes our EQ skills are so low, rightly so, because we didn't learn them from our parents. We didn't learn them in school. People don't even know how to answer that question. They say, I don't like feeling angry or frustrated or anxious or even disrespected. These are really not very good words. They're very general words. And so, yes, disrespected is on this packet, but Jordan, and tell us, man, if you could, what are your buttons?
I've said this word. I think we've come the last couple of podcasts we've shot. We kind of highlight around this word a lot. I think my biggest fear would be failure as a parent, right? First of all, me and Danny got married relatively young. My first kid, when we were twins, we were 27. We're still in our 20s. Think about what you're doing in your 20s, right?
Oh my gosh.
And
so many people now when they're 27, they're going to Coachella and they're doing stupid stuff.
Right.
You put a baby inside your wife and then 2 of them came out.
And I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right things. I am being a fun dad, a memorable dad, and a dad that teaches wisdom so that they're well off when and then they want to have a relationship with me later in life, So that's my biggest one. I want to make sure.
So that's an emotion. It's called failure. So you do not like feeling like a failure, kind of like you're failing your kids, or like you're screwing your kids up.
Yes.
Or like you're a bad dad. You don't want to feel that emotion.
Yes.
And you do feel that emotion sometimes, don't you?
Oh yeah. Especially if let's say it's a rainy day and I'm busy and my wife's busy and they're on spring break.
Yep.
and they're on electronics all day, and I
Yeah.
feel like a failure 100%, but
Yeah.
I can't be their source of entertainment. But I tell them
Right.
turn off the phone and they'll go out, but
Right.
it's raining, and so I can make him an excuse like, well, it's fine. I'm so busy. I got to get this done.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
therefore at the end of the day, I'll feel like a failure.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that just wild how this is how parenting works? Like your kids would be something that seems kind of normal and rational. It's a rainy day, so they're on screens. And that
Right.
just pushes your buttons. So I asked you to try to narrow it down to your top 5. And so what
Okay.
else is in
So
your
that's number
top
one.
5? Mhm.
Number two is disconnected.
Okay.
And that's probably where failure comes in, as in I want to be a dad that
Yeah.
they don't run away from later in life, that they
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
are have a relationship with me and
Yeah.
be together for the rest of us. So
Yeah.
that's a big one. I don't
So
want to
yeah,
feel
it's it's a
disconnected.
feeling. It's interesting. If you ask 10 people what is disconnected feels like, you're going to get 10 different responses. And so this is an EQ exercise to help Jordan and anyone taking this assessment to really figure out what am I feeling inside, right? What are the
Right.
words? And so yeah, you don't like feeling disconnected. All right. What else?
All right. So these last three, which is
Mhm.
my third one, I feel like is the same, but you
Okay.
might feel differently. All right.
I already know I feel like the
So
same because they're different in the assessment. And so I already know they're different,
okay.
but okay.
Nope, they're the same.
Okay.
So worthless,
Worthless.
okay.
Okay.
Unimportant.
Unimportant.
Okay, the last one was disconnected. So those three. So worthless,
Or
unimportant, and disconnected.
well,
And then
you
I'll save
told
the
me.
last one for later.
Okay, for
Okay,
later.
you know what?
Okay,
I'm
so
changing my mind.
worthless.
I'm changing my
Oh,
mind.
oh, you
I'm
are.
changing my
Okay.
mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. These two are the same. Worthless and unimportant to me are very similar.
All right. Tell us, why do you think they're similar, and why do you hate feeling worthless or unimportant around your kids? Is
It's
it-
like, have you ever read that book, Love and Respect?
Yes. Yes. It's
Okay.
by Egrich, I think, or something. I read it like 15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I read a long time ago as well, right? And so we really talk about the dynamics of like a husband and wife, and you
Uh-huh.
need to share love and share respect, both sides
Yes.
basically. But
Yeah.
really, when it comes down to masculine and feminine, the
Sure.
respect for the masculine side and the
Yeah.
love for the feminine
Yeah.
side.
Women, feminine, generally speaking, women really want to feel love.
Right.
And overall, one of the main things men really want to feel is respect. Please continue. Yeah.
So then if you use that word worthless, therefore I would assume your respect has really come down and the kids
Right.
don't respect you anymore and they don't feel like you're even needed, let's say in
Right.
family
Mm-hmm.
or as a father figure in general.
Yeah, man.
And so then the kids can
Yeah.
feel like they're doing their own thing when the
Yeah.
reality is I know the importance of father figures. And so you want to make sure you do have some kind of worth in their life.
Well said. Yeah. Yeah. So here's a quick little teaching on this. In the Parents Club, I provide the members with 25 super deep videos, way better than any like social media or TikTok video. But one of the ways, let me teach you about these words real quick, and I'll love to get your response. One of the ways to process these words is to understand that just like Superman is really like kind of allergic to this rock called kryptonite, it's like his
Yeah.
weakness. It really affects him when he's around it. He doesn't act like his normal self. He acts like the worst version of myself. I have some videos to help us understand our buttons and process it. And this is a little sample of it. But do you feel like when you get these buttons pushed, it like really affects you? Like, so nobody likes feeling like failure, disconnected, worthless, unimportant. But you, man, it really is like a kryptonite to
Yeah.
you. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Especially when you invest all this time into, let's say, your
Yeah.
family or
Yeah.
your kids. And let's say
Right.
your kids get to an age where they're like, yeah,
Right.
you're important to me. Like, how much
Yeah.
would that break you? That would be,
Oh
you'd
my
be like, I'm such a
gosh.
failure. Right. So
Yeah.
it's all stemming around
For
that big word of
sure.
being a failure. But
Yeah.
if you're not important in their life, if you're unimportant, then therefore that's
Mm-hmm.
why I think then therefore you're worthless. And that's why I put those
Uh-huh.
two very similar
Whew.
together.
We have one similar word, my dude. We have one similar word. Now, if I could, can I share my buttons with you?
Yes,
Now,
please.
before I do, let me ask you a juicy question. And if you can't answer this, that's okay, because you don't have a lot of time to prep. Is there a story or a moment from your childhood, or was there something that happened in your childhood that is somehow connected to these buttons for you? Right now, it doesn't need to be. We don't overanalyze this. Like, no parent likes filling your words. But was there something in how you were raised or a childhood experience that makes this kind of extra sensitive? It's almost like, when I had surgery on my wrist from a broken accident, for several months, for 6 months, if you were to even lightly tap my wrist, or if I were to bend my wrist in a wrong way, like, ouch, right? It took me 9 months of rehab on my wrist because it wasn't fully healed from the surgery. I have a metal pin in there. And it was, when you tap it, it's a sign that it's, I still have some healing to do in my wrist. Now I can touch the wrist and there's no healing. That's kind of how some of this stuff works, man. Did I kind of spoke in code there, but did you kind of get the vibe that I was saying there?
Now all I'm thinking about is this the story where you broke your wrist snowboarding because you thought you were Shaun.I and doing some really cool tricks?
Dude, as you know, Jordan, I'm not a great snowboarder. Jordan knows this. Jordan's a great snowboarder, surfer.
Oh my God.
And after doing all these trips, man, and having all these broken bones, concussions, I said, what the hell am I doing, man? I'm not as good a snowboarder as I think I am. And that's partly why I'm not really into it anymore. And that's why I went into surfing more, because you can fall on a surfboard.
I'm glad your wrist is better.
Thanks,
but yes, it made sense completely. And as I think about it, I'm thinking that maybe the initial, trigger would be when my parents got divorced, right? I was 9 and but I don't ever remember. I mean, there was some turmoil. Obviously, we moved away and my mom was doing her own thing. My dad was now doing his own thing. I don't know if I would say that any one of them was a failure. Disconnected's a big one because my dad, had to find himself again for several years. We still had a relationship with him. We still saw him, but we were more disconnected with him than we had ever been.
Well, that would make sense then. This is why maybe you have a fear of being disconnected from your own kids, because you know what that feels like.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
And as I get older, I see another relationship in my family with the person my mom's with, and his daughter is very much, the mentality of like, you're disconnected, you're unimportant to me. I don't need you in my life. And I see what that does to him. And I think that shows me I don't want that. I don't want that.
So that's a whole different episode. Some parents out there are really hurting from this word. It's called estrangement. And so it sounds like you're referring to a possible or potentially estranged relationship. And this generation of kids is very much into estrangement.
Yeah.
And that is a very painful thing. Everyone actually hurts from estrangement. But yeah, let me tell you my stories. And then if anything comes up for you on your stories, let me let me hear from you. So my buttons are and actually my number one button, because I can I ask clients to even prioritize them. Is there like a first round draft pick? Is I really do not like feeling uncared for. I don't really feel like I think where it comes from is I do so much caring for my family and I do so much caring for other people. And I don't really ask for people to care for me very much. But when I do, or if I'm hurting or sick in bed, like I really want my family to care for me. Like I have freaking feelings too,
Yeah.
And if
that's true.
And if they don't, I don't handle it well sometimes. It really affects me. And it really bothers me.
Does caring for you, let's say you're sick in this situation and you're in bed all day, your wife steps up, takes care of the kids, takes care of the house chores.
Yeah, she always steps up in that way. Yes.
So is that care for you, or are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about like bring me some chicken noodle soup.
Yes.
But also like, how are you doing?
Yes.
Sean? How are you? But really, it's so much deeper than that. It really does this is that I will share, as you hear in every episode, I share my feelings with my kids and with my wife. And I'm not needy. I don't do it every day. But, when I do share my feelings once a week, once every 2 weeks, like I want them to show care. I want to feel cared for.
That makes sense.
Right? And it's a huge part of my life. It's a huge part of my teaching. This is the dad I want to be. I don't want to be a robot.
Okay.
And it's in these hard talks and in these moments where you do so much bonding and so much teaching, right? So yes,
so that's number one.
So yeah, then I also top number 2 would be what you said. I do not like feeling unimportant. I want to feel famous in my home. I want to feel like I'm important. Like I worked hard for this home. You're important to me, kids, wife. You're so important to me. And I want to feel strong and masculine. I want to feel important in my own home.
Yeah.
And if some little things happen, then on the surface, I might feel this way or think this way. But if I were to really pause and say what's actually happening to me, it's like, oh, I don't feel important right now. And it
Yeah.
hurts.
So you probably have had this experience. You walk in the door and the kids are like, Daddy, they run to you and give you a hug.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Right.
years and years, I still get that. It happens almost every day. It happened this morning. My 5-year-old daughter went like this at 8:30 in the morning when I'm prepping for this podcast. She went like this. I said, come in. And this sweet little 5-year-old comes in and she just wants to hug and snuggle. Feels
That's
so important. I feel so honored.
That's good.
A 5-year-old honors my boundaries. We did an episode last week about boundaries.
Right.
It's so important, man. Those little things. So yes.
What about when they're on the couch and you walk in the door and mom says, honey, your dad's home, and they're on their phone, they look up and they're like, oh, hey, dad.
That's super normal now. That's super normal when you have a teenagers.
Dude, that's rough.
I'm not as important to them anymore. And that's
hard.
Okay. And that's hard. Normal. But that says more about me, right, than it does anyone, right? It's more about me. How am I going to manage these emotions? We don't control our emotions. We manage them. And so when you actually know what like your top 5 buttons are, it'll really change your life. So I hope everyone can take this assessment. So I also really don't like feeling unheard. Now I'm a teacher. I'm like an alpha male. When I speak up in those teaching moments, I want to be heard. It's really hard for me to not feel heard. But now that I know this about myself, I can really manage it. And here's something I really just discovered. I don't feel provoked very much. But I had a big rupture with one of my children about a few days ago. And we both kind of triggered each other. It was a blow up. I'm really not happy that it happened. I'm not happy how I handled it, but I can see like I was provoked and I felt provoked. It's an emotion. Like, so no one can provoke me. I feel provoked, right? No one can control me. I feel
but
controlled.
Isn't provoked like there's a level of being provoked?
Well, if I were to say you're provoking me, I'm starting an argument because the person might say, no, I'm not. But if I say I feel provoked, you can't argue. This is why you should never say you're disrespecting me. You're starting an argument, right? You're out of control. Calm down. These are all like these are not soft openers. These are not helpful words. But if you say I'm feeling provoked, but that's what happened with me. I did some of my reactions, which is a whole nother episode. That's another question in the parenting assessment. What are your reactions? And I did my reactions because I felt provoked. And I realized, I don't do well when I feel that. Yeah.
So how would we, as parents, not getting into the subject specifically, but how would we manage being provoked or feeling provoked if it's happening in real time?
First thing to do is to label it. This is actually an EQ exercise called labeling. We're actually doing it together. We're labeling our emotions.
So now you know this is what provokes you, but if the same thing were to happen again.
2 is you do self-regulation. You counsel yourself. You talk to yourself. And this all happens in real time. This all happens within 5 seconds. Okay. What is happening inside of me? Okay. Why am I thinking this? Why am I either reacting or about to react? And then when you can start really doing this, then you can then start doing other steps. Okay, what do I need to do some self-care? Do I need to take a time out? Do I need to take a break? Is this time for a heart talk? Or is this something I just don't sweat the small stuff? Maybe, or do I go and talk to my co-parent, my partner, and say, hey, what do you think about this? This is what's coming up for me. I just listed off like 6 options that I could go on. Did I answer your question?
That's good. Okay. No, that's good. That's stuff that we can all think about at home. Like, because we've all probably been there when we know our buttons are getting pushed and they keep getting pushed and you're managing them and you're doing so well managing them, but then it keeps going and you get to a point of like in the meteorological world today in Dallas, you've got a chance for storms to get crazy, but there's a lid. There's a lid on the atmosphere. And so if the lid doesn't break, it's going to be a sunny day and a calm day. But if the lid breaks, it's going to go gangbusters.
Oh, interesting.
The question is, will that lid break? Will that lid break? So I want to make sure that my lid doesn't break. I want to make sure my lid stays cool, even if my buttons keep getting pushed.
You've got to be the adult. First of all, round of applause for George Steele. You just gave some great parenting advice. You were honest and vulnerable, but you taught it through the lenses of a meteorologist. We learned a lot about freaking science right there. That was awesome, man.
But it's what I feel like. And I don't, if my kid keeps doing it or my wife keeps doing it, do I just walk away?
You've got to. Right. So we
I need a break. And then you just leave the moment.
So when we do our podcast on reactions, we'll see that, it's very reactionary to avoid, to withdraw. Those are not healthy. What is healthy are things like timeouts, things
With
like
your dunce hat.
yeah, the dunce, the clown's house. No, we time ourselves out. I don't believe in giving kids timeouts. They do not work. They are very ineffective. No, we time ourselves out. We go take a 5 minute break. We cool ourselves down, and before we talk, because if we're starting to talk while we're all emotional,
Yeah.
all the stupid stuff's going to come out of
Yelling.
our house.
Who's
We're going to be
louder?
parenting in fear, parenting in anger, parenting in emotion, parenting and that's for so we've got to find ways to be the adult in relationship, to manage our own emotions, right? And you know what, this is kind of what we do in this podcast is I'm going to put tools in your toolbox, but some of the best tools I can give you are really tools to really understand and process all the emotionality and the EQ stuff that's happening inside of you and your kids, right? Because if we can actually do this to ourselves, if we can regulate our own emotions, label our own emotions, then you know what that means for our kids. You tell me, what does that mean for our kids?
We're their number one teacher, right?
Yeah.
So like they're going to be witnessing what we're doing, and hopefully it'll train them along the way. And then doing what you do, having heart-to-hearts and one-on-ones and describing emotions over time, they're building up this knowledge that they don't even understand until they get older.
Oh,
they've got this toolbox now.
You know what? There's a cliche that I love, and I think I hate it. I think it's kind of controversial for me to hate it. So we've all heard this expression and say, and we all believe in it. It's called, it's something like more is caught than taught. But really what we say is, oh gosh, I'm blanking on it. Help me remember it. It's about kind of just like leading by example with our kids.
Yeah, I mean, that was one. More is caught than taught.
Yeah, but there's another one. What is it? How does it go? Like leading by example? I don't know. Okay, so I posted this kind of video on TikTok, kind of praising and criticizing this video that Jim Carrey just posted, because he's a grandparent now, and you know CBS was asking him, give us your grandparenting tips, and he said, I don't really have any tips. I just think that whenever you say anything to kids, they don't really care what you have to say.
Was he being serious?
Yeah, he was being serious.
Oh wow!
And
usually Jim Carrey's not okay.
I know he was being super serious. He's actually very profound now. I might have even talked about Jim last week, didn't we? I don't know how I'm talking about Jim Carrey so much, but he says, I don't care what I have to say. So I just want to be a cool, moral grandparent and let that like live my life in a cool, moral way in front of them. Now, on one hand, that's super great advice. On the other hand, it's the world's stupidest advice. So first of all,
you're saying it's the world's greatest advice because you're living by example, but you're not actually parenting. You're just living your own life and hoping to make it on.
Yes, that's really cool. We all love that stuff, right? Whatever. But as a parenting quote, expert ever, I think it's so stupid. Because first of all, two things come to mind. First of all, you're Jim Carrey, man. You're freaking Jim Carrey. You have a voice. People care what you have to say. I care. Your kids definitely care, right? You're a celebrity. You're Jim Carrey. So if Jim Carrey says no one cares what I have to say, what does that mean for regular people like us, right?
Yeah.
The secondary is no. No, we have to speak up. We have to teach. Imagine if kindergarten teachers said that. Imagine if football coaches says, no, I don't need to use my voice here. I'm just going to show these guys how to play football. No.
Yeah.
We have to speak up and teach, right? I think that's actually an excuse, a cop-out that a lot of parents do to defend their avoidant parenting strategies. They say, you know what? I can't get through these kids. They don't believe me. They don't care what I have to say. So I'm not going to say anything.
Right. I think, I think you're onto something there as I think about that a little deeper. And I don't know if it's knowingly a cop-out in the moment, other than they just don't want to keep trying because they're like, it's not working anyway. But the reality is it is. But there's so much going on that you can't see. Right. So you need to do what's best for the kids and for others. This doesn't just for kids. This could be a friend. This could be about someone in your community, how they might say, I don't need you. But just the fact that you being there will mean more to them than anything. Right. And so I think just keep trying to live your best life, but also helping others is better than just walking away and saying, I'm just going to do my own thing. And hopefully someone watches me and learns something.
I think whether you're parenting a kid who's 9 or 19, every parent is going to get their buttons pushed. We're going to feel unwanted, unheard, disrespected. And so logically, it would make sense for this parents to kind of throw their hands in the air and say, what are you going to do? They don't care what I have to say.
Yeah.
And because they don't want to get their buttons pushed, so then they stop parenting. They stop teaching, because then by stopping, it's a coping mechanism, because if they were to start teaching or connecting, it would be painful. So they said, I don't want to go through this pain of being connected to my kids. So what are you going to do? Kids will be kids. And then they move into passive permissive parenting. And then you got a kid that was raised by YouTube and by TikTok.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what's
I just
happening
think it's
in our society a lot of.
So with families that, let's say, are on the edge of this, that have given up, right? And they're like, it's just so hard.
So many parents give up
by
8th, 9th grade. It's just too hard. And it's what they do. And then they defend it. They rationalize it. And because it's just so hard being emotionally connected.
So if someone's listening right now and they have let's say a 16-year-old and they gave up when the kid was 12 or 13.
Yeah. Yep.
There's several years here of them giving up, but they're like, no, I still want to try again. I'm going to get back to it.
Well, if you're listening to this podcast, it means you haven't given up. So good for you. So don't give up.
That's true.
But realize if you've given up, it means,
how do I go back to ground zero?
You can do this. Ground zero would be join the Parents Club, start doing work on your own emotional, on what's happening inside of you, because you've given up because you're not managing your emotions well. And it has more to do with you than it does your children. So don't give up. Instead, try a new parenting approach and I will show you the way, right?
That's good.
Because they gave up because they couldn't handle the pain anymore. And I don't blame them, because parenting is so emotional. And that kind of brings it up. Parenting's always been so hard. And now we have screens sabotaging our family trips to the beach, sabotaging our car rides, sabotaging our closeness. Like, these screens made family time and outings so much harder, didn't they, man?
Yeah. I'm going to ask something a little different, and maybe there's an older teenager listening and they want what you have described, but the parent isn't mature enough to be there yet, but the kid is. How can a kid go about that?
Oh, dude, I don't know if any teenager is going to be listening to this, but maybe they are. Oh my gosh, dude, that's such a deep question. I'm going to make a note right now, and I'm going to, we're going to have a whole different podcast about for that. Here's, I think,
because there's a lot of movies out there, right? Where like you'll watch the teenager and then, like, let's say an alcoholic parent or a single parent that's got 3 jobs and cannot literally be there really, or the child takes care of their parent because their parent still hasn't matured. They want that relationship. But the parent's not able.
Here's a quick tool for that 16-year-old listening, or for that 56-year-old parent listening. Here's a quick tool. I have a lot of stories and a lot of teaching examples to answer that question, Jordan, but I'll just do it really short. Kids, they get their buttons pushed by their parents, right? They don't, and as they grow and change, those buttons change and their reactions change. So, like, for example, my daughter had 3 friends over last night, and I made them a big barbecue and turned on the fire pit for them, and they hung out outside. And I can just tell, like, my daughter had her buttons pushed by some of this experience, including having our 5-year-old, around her friends. So, right. And so one of the keys to thriving with parents, as in us with our own parents, is this word. It's called acceptance. So many teenagers, young people, and so many of us, we actually accept our parents. We live in contempt. We feel contempt toward them. We want to change them. We want to punish them for what they've done. And so, like I said, this is a deep topic. I think there's a difference between acceptance and forgiveness, but I think they're both brilliant words. And I think if we can come to those places in our lives with our own parents, good things are going to happen. Accepting them for who they are, accepting that they did the best they could, accepting that they're highly flawed people, and to realize to be mindful to not have that contempt sneak into our hearts, because that can really cause damage. What do you think about that, man?
I think that's good. I think that's really wise. That's once again going back to working on yourself, because you can't control someone else. So if you're a kid wanting your parents to be a certain way,
right,
they're not going to change for you. They
No,
can't even change for themselves.
exactly.
So you accept them from who they
Right.
are, and you maybe still love them,
Right.
and hopefully over time they
Yeah.
could figure it out, because they're just lost, obviously.
Those are two great tools to put in our toolboxes as parents of teenagers. As our teenagers are not going to be like us. They're going to
Right.
be different. And let's just be honest, they're going to be saying and doing things that we do not like. And we
Yeah.
might not, we won't want to accept it. We're going to try to change them. And that can cause a lot of problems. And if things escalate and things get really bad, then contempt can live into a parent's heart. And if you've got contempt for your kids, it's a great time to do a restart and to try something new.
Do you see yourself parenting? I sometimes catch myself parenting in a way, I'll take little nuggets from what my parents did and little nuggets from what my parents didn't do. Right. So like,
well, my parents might be listening to this, so I want to always honor them because I do love them, but I have a lot of similarities to my mom and dad personality wise, but I have to just be honest with you. I can think of maybe like on one hand nuggets of wisdom that I took from my parents. I did not get many tools from them.
Well, you learned a lot then. Good job. Because so some people just are in families where families help, and some you got to do it on your own.
Speaking of parents, here's a question for you. On this show, we really want to ask each other personal questions. And so let me ask you, my dude, how are you different from your parents? And if you could try to answer this in particular context of like family trips or family time, since that's kind of the vibe of this. In our next segment is we've got, as we talk more about how to thrive as a family with family time, I'm going to give you some pointers for that in a little bit. So Jordan, tell me thoughts about that.
Okay. So for family trips, I'm continuing the traditions that my mom instilled in me, and that is we go on family trips.
Oh, okay.
I get it.
Yeah, that's a lot of families don't have that culture.
All families don't have that, and I get it. It's expensive. It takes time, and you gotta, some people can't. Maybe they don't have weekends off. Maybe they have opposite schedules, and it's really difficult for them. So the fact that we were able to take family trips, I still remember to this day, snowboarding on Mammoth or going to Flagstaff to visit my grandparents and going hunting with them. Yes. Just going to the beach with my old stepdad Hilton and spending the week at the beach, right? Okay. So like camping and all this stuff, like I continued that because I found that to be really important for me. Other things that, I'm not like my parents in is, when they were together, they would fight a lot. And
they were before they were divorced.
Yeah, before they were divorced, and even a little bit after, but they were moving on at that time. And so they would just fight all the time. And I would see a lot of fighting as I was growing up. And it was really hard. And so I was like, man, I want to try to do everything I can to not fight. And it didn't happen. All right. I failed. Me and my spouse would fight from time to time as we're early on in the relationship, trying to get to know, like, one of the big conversations that led to a little bit of a fight was finances, right? How many divorces are caused by finances, right?
Right.
And so we were just on a different mindset of how finances work. And so we had to really come together. And so the good thing is we've been able to find communication and understand each other to where we haven't fought as much. I wish we could have fought less growing up, but we don't fight that anymore now. But and that's one thing I wanted to make sure I took away is I just don't want to fight. I see what that can do to you. I think there's a saying, it says a bad relationship is worse than cancer, right? What it does internally to you. It just tears.
Oh my gosh, it's so deep.
So,
oh my gosh, man, we can't help but think of when you tell these stories, man, I can't help thinking of my own life and childhood. I'm sure that's hopefully why you're listening to this podcast. Thank you for sharing that, man.
Do you have any that you want to share?
Oh, well, in many ways, I'm like a clone to, I think, my father. Like our personalities are so similar. Really? But to answer this question in particular is two things come to mind of how I'm so different is two ways is I think of planning and finances. My parents didn't really plan. They didn't really prioritize big outings or trips going up. Secondarily, finances were always a big issue, even before the divorce. And then of course, majorly afterwards, after the divorce. So you could say, generally speaking, my parents didn't prioritize or financially plan for these outings. We went camping like once a year, maybe twice a year. But yeah, so now my wife telling me early on in our marriage, like she wants to do these big trips. And I was like, we have no money. I mean, I had no money for so long. I was like, but Sean, this is something I want to prioritize. I want to save for. I said, well, what is that? Like, why? Like, let's not do that. And there was a sense of tension. And now, thankfully, that is something we do now, and this is why I actually had this huge drama. I don't know if I mentioned on this podcast, my whole family's going to Mexico tomorrow morning, and they all had their passports, and mine didn't come. So I put all this work and effort, and there was a chance that my family's going to go to Mexico without me on a trip that I partially paid for as the sole working parent in the home, and they're going to go without me. So I believe my passport's going to come today in the mail, and I have a backup plan. So those are kind of ways.
Do you ever think God like does things just to joke around every once in a while? Like, oh, I know Sean didn't want to travel, so have a little fun with him.
I would say I take my theology very seriously. I would say definitely no. That's not.
I know. I'm
joke.
teasing.
No,
I'm just teasing.
I don't want to over spiritualize.
It's very comical how this has happened.
It is comical how every family trip you can find something to cry about, laugh about. Maybe you can't laugh right away. It might take you a year to laugh about, but we think about these trips. Let me ask you another question here before we get to Ask the Family Coach. You got a story here. We might add this segment as part of a more regular segment in our show. Jordan, tell me a story that changed your life. A story that changed your life.
My life.
A story as a dad, as a man, or a childhood story. Tell us a story that happened to you that changed your life, and then I'll tell you one.
There's a lot of crossroads that could come to that help define who you are.
Yes.
Or help define what your passions are. For me, there was a crossroad when it came to learning what the ocean was like. And that's still with me today. There's a crossroad about going in the woods and being with my grandfather and hunting with him. And that has defined me to this day and understanding life and everything. But I would say it would be more recently with my youngest, right? He's 3. We're in the hospital. We had just had this baby, and we had just also had my mother-in-law and the twins, which my other 2 children, come to the hospital to meet the baby for the first time. And right as they are there, they bring the babies with us, and hey, this is your new baby brother, Kinlan Coast, and blah, 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 blah.
Kinlan Coast, what a name.
So, and there's a story about that. My daughter named him. And anyway, we can get into that later. But right at that time, the doctor comes in and says, hey, we want to let you guys know that your son, who has been alive for 6 hours, has Down syndrome. And so like,
oh my gosh.
At that time, it's like everything in your life just halts, time freezes, and you're like, what is going on? And so you're at a moment where you're like, hold on, you're telling us when we're doing family time and they're meeting their brother for their first time, and you throw this weight on us.
Oh my gosh.
And we got to explain this to them. We have to realize what our feelings are like, because they're all over the place.
All over the place. The fears, the shock.
Oh, we're mad at the nurse for telling us at that time. You know what I mean? And we're just, so that defined us in, I don't know how or what the words would be to describe how it defined us. I think it defined us in, I would say, understanding that life is precious, but I already knew that. So maybe that life is a gift, right?
Okay.
And nowadays, unfortunately, my opinion is people can choose whether they want life to be with them or not. And to me, it's like, no, this solidified my idea of no matter what that life looked like, that life was going to be life. And I was never going to end that life for any reason. Because, doctors would ask you, especially during the pregnancy, if you find out early, like, do you want to terminate? And you can go through all the weight of that. And it's really tough. But thankfully, we didn't have any of those problems during pregnancy, or even questions to ask whether we wanted to move forward or not. But that solidified us, like, no matter what.
Okay, man.
We would have said yes,
Yeah.
And so from there, we have chosen to be advocates and highlight what it means to have someone with special needs in your family. And it's just brought more amount of joy than anybody could have ever experienced or known. And it's really like, he's like the glue of the
Oh,
family. It's a weird
yeah.
way. Like, he pulls in his brother and sister. He pulls us in. It's like everything's
Oh my
united around it.
gosh. I went
Yeah.
to
Anyway, that was a big one.
my friend's party at like the Moose Lodge 2 Friday nights ago, and there was a sweet little eight-year-old child there dancing with all the adults, and he
Ooh,
was a
yes.
little boy, and he was having a good time, and all these huge biker dudes were dancing with him. They holding their hands, and these old timers were dancing with them. And gosh, that story actually changed probably hundreds of people's life, because it changed all your siblings' lives. It changed your kids' lives. It changed your parents' life. That story when Kenan was born, because that's what any child does. It changes everyone's life, but especially in,
Yeah.
you know.
And if you think about bikers, right? Like this story you're telling.
Yeah.
What is the word that comes from? Like hard, right? These are
Hard, badass.
Bubba, you know,
tough. Yeah.
tough, you know?
Yeah.
but yet there's this being or this child or this, it could even be an older person who brings that toughness and breaks down that barrier and just brings it back to a level that's
a gift. They're such a gift. They're such a gift for all of us.
Yeah.
Right. I remember when you called me on the phone, it changed my life, because I was like, okay, I know I don't live next to Jordan. I may never live next to him, but I've got such a deep love and bond with this family. I want to be in this kid's life. And I remember I said to you, I don't know what to say. I'm just glad you're telling me. I
do remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, it's these stories, right? It's just these stories that we experience changes our lives so much. I got a little story for you. So my parents we had a culture of driving from California up to Seattle. My parents sat my sisters and I down, and they announced that, they were getting a divorce, and Dad was not coming on the trip with us to Seattle.
How old were you?
I was 11. And then, as what proceeded was a lot of internal pain for me, just processing my parents' divorce and having new step parents and these moves and a lot of stuff that happened. I remember I was sitting there with a friend my senior year of high school, and this friend asked me, Sean, what do you want to do with your life? And it was such an obvious answer for me. It was a no-brainer. I totally remember it. And when it came out of my lips, it changed my life. And I remember it today. I said to my friend, you know what? I don't really know, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
I just know that I want to have a family. I want to be a dad. And when I was saying that, I was talking about like a nuclear family. I wanted to be I want to have a loving family. I didn't want to be divorced. I want to raise my kids. I want to live with them. And now look at me.
Yeah.
My dreams came true, man. I've got 3 kids. I love my wife. She loves me. We've been through so much together. And I have a podcast and a business about parenting. It's such a journey,
Yeah.
My dreams came true, man.
Going back to my idea that God messes with you every once in a while, he also throws you some beautiful things.
Gosh,
coming full circle.
A lot of beautiful country songs about that, and beautiful scriptures and verses. Well, there's a great frame. I think it's by Garth Brooks. I thank God for unanswered prayers. Maybe it's Ducks and Brun. Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah.
Maybe it's them, but like we have these visions in our head about what we want parenting in life to be like that, and we pray that they happen, and they never happen. Yeah. And now, I'm just so thankful for all this. So love being in your life for everyone that's listening. So let's do the segment. I'd love to give you some tools about this.
Yes. So, Ask the Family Coach time.
When you think about questions that come up for you on this episode, as we kind of wrap up our episode here, what kind of questions do you have for me about family time, Jordan?
All right. So, one thing, and I've had to deal with this a little bit, but I bet a lot of people deal with it all the time. Maybe you've dealt with it a lot, is like, let's just keep a simple weekend getaway. Maybe it's a 4-day getaway. Mm-hmm. We're packing the car. Maybe it's the old school Chevy Chase sedan, the station wagon.
Dude, some of the best movies of all time.
I know.
About the Chevy Chase Christmas movies and all those.
And actually, that's a really, thinking about those movies like Vegas Vacation. I mean, there's so much in those stories about the kids doing their own thing and getting away from the family. And at the end of all coming together. Yeah. So when you get to kids who just don't want to have anything to do with this family trip, because they just want to, let's say it's your 13-year-old's best friend's birthday party.
Yeah.
He or she is missing their best friend's birthday party because you decided you want to take them out on a weekend getaway to do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
How do you go about not getting annoyed at your child for just showing a lack of respect or a lack of empathy?
Okay. It really doesn't matter if your kid is 2 weeks old or 22 weeks old or 22. The first thing is something we've actually alluded to already today is for the first, I'm going to give you 3 tips, 3 action steps. The first is to regulate your own emotions. You've got to realize that this is going to be emotional for you. Like, parenting is already painful, but when you spend all this money and you take your kids on a vacation and they're acting like buttheads or they're on screens, then it's like, what the hell, kids? Spend all this money and you're ruining the trip. It's bringing you down. It can be extra painful. That's why so many parents, you may not even know this. Did you know a lot of parents, they don't even vacation with their teenagers anymore? They leave their teenagers at home. It's a thing.
Actually, I did know that. In fact, I've got a family member who does that. They ask their kids, they want to go on the boat, go to Lake Powell for the weekend. And they'll be like, no, I want to stay home. I'm like, okay, cool. See ya. And I'm like,
not cool. Horrible. And they do that because either the kid's addicted to screens or because the dynamic is just so toxic. These family needs new parenting tools, and they just let their kids, separate themselves. So unhealthy. Like, why have kids in the first place?
Right.
Right. So figure out what's happening inside of you, because like we said earlier, when the more you know what's happening inside of you, then you can actually manage that better. You can cope with it better, or you can share your feelings with people, your kids, your spouses, to help them comfort you, to help them there. Remember, think of it this way. Anytime someone shares a feeling with you, everyone, you're at a fork in the road in your life. You can either respond in a way that sends a message. I care about you. I care about your feelings. I want to be there. I want to support you. Or I want to maybe, develop a win-win together.
Yeah.
Or you respond in a way that says, I don't really give a crap about your feelings. Just care about mine. Why are you being this way? Shut up. Don't be dramatic. Stop and ruin the trip. Why are you doing this? Or are you going to people-pleasing rescuing mode? So that's my first tip. You like my tip?
I do. And I've already learned. I have a second question, but I've already I think, got an answer for my second question just from that answer. Thank you.
All right. Here's the second tip: is teach beforehand. Okay. So when I was coaching my daughter in basketball for 2 years, which was an awesome experience. We won the championship the second year. Also, what's so funny is that my daughter didn't score 1 basket for the whole 2 years. She didn't make 1 basket for 2 years. But when I'm pulling these girls, these like 5th grade girls over the sideline, like, I know a lot about basketball. I'm really not going to teach them on the sideline that much. The game's going on.
Right.
Coaches don't do their best teaching on the sidelines while it's happening. This is why that same expression, teaching moments almost never happen in the moment. So teach beforehand. Have a family meeting about, this is the expectations of the trip. This is,
that's good.
This is how we're going to manage screens. This is what I'm going through. This is what we're thinking. This is like how we're handling all this stuff. I was just bragging about how much I was happy that my 5-year-old honored my boundaries. And now, I don't know if you've noticed it, for those of you watching this podcast on YouTube, you might see my 5-year-old just crashed the party. What's up, girl? Hey, I'm doing a podcast right now. Okay, I'd like to have a little boundaries. So I need some privacy while I film my podcast. Thank you, sweetie pie.
We're almost done.
So the time to talk to my 5-year-old about boundaries is not during a live podcast, or we don't want to cut this out. But
you've already taught her, so you say the word and she understands it because you've already pre-taught her.
Yeah, like, I do have trust. You're going to hear a door close here because she's going to close the door. We're allowed. Oh, she did it quietly. Okay.
Oh, there it goes.
So teach beforehand. The 3 is to really is to have heart talks with your kids to solve problems on vacation or during a vacation. So I'd like to give you an example of this. So first of all, here's an example of teaching beforehand. Over Christmas, we went to a Christmas tree farm, and we've been going to those recently, and it was a bad experience. We probably won't do it again. Why? Because it took us 3 hours to find a freaking tree.
Oh no.
And so, but big shocker here, everyone in my family had a good attitude the entire time, including me, which I'm pretty proud of.
Wow.
And so why would a 17-year-old, a 12-year-old, even a 5-year-old and a grandmother and a mom and dad have a good attitude. I just think it was a success story for the Donohue crew, is because I think everyone knew, like, this is not about you. Like, this is not about you. This is about the family. So I was actually teaching my daughter, who's 5, is giving her piggyback rides for 3 hours. Like, this is not about you. The whole world doesn't revolve around you.
Right.
This is family time. And I think that's often a mistake that us may make as parents. We want our kids to be happy. We don't want them to complain. So we do reactive parenting to try to get them to stop complaining by giving them screens or sugary drinks or bribing them. But really what they need, kids don't need a bribe. They don't need a referee. They need a coach. Coach them. Hey, this is, and really who was it really about? Well, from my experience, I think what it was really about was the family. The number 2 things is about the mom, because Danielle really wanted to find the perfect tree. And we were all being patient to letting her find a tree that she loves. Thankfully, we're not going to do that again. Oh gosh, we're going to go to a tree.
So funny.
So here,
so
let's do a little role.
Hold on,
when you're ready.
Number one, I'm going to say I've been doing those tips as I prep for Costa Rica.
Oh yes.
Number 1 is we like to take a family photo every once in a while, and we want smiles from our dang kids.
Perfect example.
Okay?
Perfect example. And
one kid specifically, sometimes like, no, I don't want to be in it. I don't want to smile. I don't want to do anything with it.
That's a win-lose dynamic then, right? You lose and they win. If you were to agree to that.
If that happens, I'll get upset. And then I'm like, you know what? How about you take the photo and you're just not a part of the family in this photo? And if he's like, okay, then I'm like, okay, great. And then we do a family photo without that one child.
Right.
So a lot of photos up without
that's
one
not
child.
That's not a win. That's not a win though for you.
No, it's not. It's not a win for me, but it's you got to pick your battles, like you say. Do I want to force a smile on a kid's face when he's not into it? So we prep in advance. Hey, this is my expectation. My wife does a great job. I want at least 2 photos while we're on our trip of everybody in it. So now he's got an idea. All right.
Love it.
And that's really important. But number 1 that I think might have a lose-lose battle on is we're trying to open our kids' palate a little bit more with food. Everyone knows how hard it is to feed kids. And in Costa Rica, there isn't a lot of food we have here. Okay. I'm not going to get Annie's macaroni and cheese. Okay.
Right.
Or pasta with butter and salt.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I got you.
We're going to have this and that. And so they're like, I don't care. I'm going to eat what I want to eat. I'm like, okay, good luck.
Well, hey, let's do this. Let's do some role playing together. I'm going to be one of my clients. My client, I was giving her some tools on how to have a heart talk with her 14-year-old son. Here's the situation. The client is she's a lawyer, and she just divorced her husband, who is also a lawyer. So as you can imagine, these people they're very successful, and they have very nice things, very nice homes, and they're used to taking their kids, there's 2 sons, to these very high-end resorts. But because they're now divorced, the mother is being more mindful of her finances. So she takes her 2 sons as a single mother to an Airbnb in San Diego for vacation. And the 14-year-old son is complaining right off the bat. Like, this place is a dump. Why are we going here? And as you can imagine, that's got to push the mother's buttons. So the mother is now, she's trying to do her reactions. She's doing stupid stuff that doesn't work. She's trying to do lectures. She's trying to do pep talks, trying to help her son to, see the best in this. We'll get through this. And big shocker, it doesn't really reach the kid's heart. So the kid keeps complaining on the vacation. Can you imagine? This is an example how these kids, the mother is working hard, saving her money, providing her son this really nice Airbnb.
Yeah.
A block from the water.
I'd be
right. And it's not 5 stars, but what the heck, right?
Yeah.
So I said, here's an idea of something you can try with your son. And we did the role playing. She said, Sean, I'm going to do that. Thank you for putting that tool. So can you pretend to be a 14-year-old dude?
Okay.
And if you want to glean any of this, you can actually, hopefully all you listen, you can see how Jordan can actually even use some of these same approach and same tools with his 8-year-old son or daughter, whoever it is, about taking pictures. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So give me a complaint, whine about something, and then watch what I do. Okay.
Okay. All right.
And I teach I teach all my private clients and all the parents in the Parents Club how to have a heart talk, by the way. So here we go.
Yeah. Mom, you got an Airbnb. I can't even see the ocean. And there's not even like a Roku stick here. Like, how am I supposed to watch or do anything?
Hey, dude, great acting, man. I'm like, just great acting. I was taken back with the acting skill. You did take acting classes, so I can see them paying off. Ready? Hey, hey, son. I'd love to have a heart talk with you.
A heart? You want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is this a good time?
Is this a good time? Well, you have us in this Airbnb that is totally worthless and I can't do anything. So sure.
Yeah, I just have some things in my heart I'd love to share with you.
Okay.
You sure this is a good time?
Mom, spit it out. What? I don't care. What do you want?
Yeah, just just thinking about that comment you just said and some of the other comments you've been saying on this trip. I just gotta tell you, this is really hurting my feelings.
Yeah, but mom, look at this place. I mean, we're used to staying at like the Ritz, and you take us to this Airbnb. It's this dumpy old house. It's super tiny. I'm sleeping on a twin mattress, and I'm 3 blocks from the beach. I can't even see the ocean. We're used to staying in like really nice places. Like, why are we here?
So, son, I'd love to just share some feelings with you. Can I keep sharing? Can I be the speaker first?
Yes, I get it. You're upset that I'm complaining.
No, I would love to share some things with you. I understand you feel this way, but can I be the speaker?
Sure.
Right. That's why I asked you, can I speak? And then you end up speaking. So I just think hearing these comments, I'm just feeling really sad.
Okay.
Can I tell you why this is hurting me? Hurting my feelings?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just feel sad because, son, I really worked hard to plan this trip. Like, as I told you before, like, we don't have the money we used to have. And I worked really hard for this trip, and hearing you complain about it, it's really affecting me. It's affecting my vibe. And I'm really feeling sad.
I am sorry I'm making you sad. I don't think we should have even come if we were going to be at a place like this.
Right. You're not making me sad. You can't make me feel anything. I'm just sharing my feelings with you. What do you hear me saying, son?
I hear you saying that you are sad because I keep complaining.
Yeah, I think I'm just really want to share these feelings with you. I don't want to stuff them. I'm feeling kind of taken advantage of.
Well, I'm not trying to take advantage of you.
I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying my feelings. Like, I've done so much. I really wanted you to have a special trip. And the way you are talking about the trip, complaining, it's really affecting me. It's really bringing my vibe down quite a bit.
So, do you understand that I'm frustrated too?
I do. I do. So I just kind of shared my feelings with you. And if you want to share your feelings next, you can. But what do you think you're going to do? Can you say a couple things to help me feel better or process this or
Yeah, and
get a
I'm
win-win here?
sorry. I'm sorry you feel this way. I don't mean to be making you feel awkward at all. And I guess my actions are making you feel awkward. I'm just frustrated
Right.
at where we've been and where we are. And I just don't
Yes.
understand.
Right.
And I'm just complaining, but I'm sorry. I don't want to make you feel anything other than having fun. So
Right. So yeah. So let's talk about this. So, son, I get it. This is not what you're used to. It's okay that you don't like this place. You're allowed to have these feelings. You're allowed to not like this place. But can I run an idea past you?
yes.
Would you please consider maybe just not sharing those feelings out loud on this trip? Like, you're a young man, you're 14. I get it. If you don't like this place, that's fine. But I'm just asking you kindly for this trip, if you feel tempted to complain or say something negative, I'm just asking you, can you please keep your feelings to yourself?
I can do that.
Because that would really mean a lot to me. And I would really feel loved and appreciate it if you did say anything about the trip. You would just say positive things. It would really help me to feel connected and like, like you're thankful to be here. Are you thankful to be here?
Yeah, yeah. This could go either way depending on the kid, but
Yeah, of course he is thankful to be there. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, all right. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for really hearing me. I feel a lot better. So can I really trust you that you're really not going to say anything else negative on this trip? You can control yourself.
Yeah, I'll do better. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank you, son. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. All right.
Fist bump.
Let's hug it out. All right, man. So instead of me breaking it down, you break it down. What do you think about
Okay,
this
well, I have
talk?
a question. So what if in this situation, the kid before the trip was like, I don't even want to go on this trip. And the mom's like, we're going on this trip, a family trip. And then they're in this fight and the kid's like, I already told you I didn't want to go on this
So yeah,
trip.
that would be a different, right. That would be a whole different role playing about
Okay.
how to develop a win-win. That's why you do the parenting before you get on the trip. Right. Because if you're going to force your kids to go on a trip with that attitude, then you're not in a position of success. You're not putting the family in a position of success. You need to use new tools to lay a healthy foundation, just like kind of you did with the whole photo thing. You're getting them really prepared for that. But did you notice anything? There was for those of you that are kind of new to listening to me, my teachings, or not familiar with the Heart Talk, there's probably a couple of things in there you found a little weird or unusual, right, Jordan?
Very weird. You kept asking the child if it was an okay to talk, time to talk. Obviously, it was an okay time to talk.
So yeah, you never let's jump in. Let me jump in. Yeah. Okay. Especially with someone 10 and up, you never want to start talking. You want to ask have a heart talk. We're not going to go into the details of a heart talk. That's for a different class. I actually offer a class on how to have a heart talk on my website. But yes, so because this is a young man, we're setting it up. We're talking about talking, so we can really have a talk, heart to heart. Not talk. This is not a head talk. This is a heart talk. All things you want to talk from your head, you go to work. You want to make parenting easier and more enjoyable. Learn how to speak from your heart to their heart, and then teach them how to comfort your heart, which is what we did. This is why it was kind of weird. One of the weirdest things I said there was, hey, can you say a couple things to help me feel better?
I noticed you never jumped in to parent. You were literally waiting for the kid to come to his own conclusion.
Anytime you're talking to somebody 10 and up, you only want to talk for 10 seconds at a time.
Okay.
If you talk for more than 20 seconds to a teenager, you're done.
Really?
They're gonna roll your eyes. You're giving a lecture.
Okay.
Good communication should be like a ping pong match.
That's a tip that needs to be written down. 10 seconds or less.
One person's the speaker and one's the listener. Do you notice that? I started speaking and then you took over the speaking role.
Right. And because in that moment you'd be heated. And of course,
and then I politely asked, hey, can I speak? And then you speak. And then I spoke. And then really, what did I really do, Jordan? What was the focus of this talk?
The focus of the talk was for me to come to a realization and understanding that what I'm doing is making my mother feel a certain way. And you didn't want to move on until he came to that realization. Yeah,
you can't make me feel anything. But yes, I was feeling that. These words were pushing my buttons. And I didn't manipulate the kid. I didn't scold them. I didn't shame them. I didn't punish them. I didn't say, give me your phone. Right. You get your phone back when you stop complaining.
Right.
I didn't say, all right, you're not going on the trip. I humanized myself to my child in a very inviting way. So my child can see the emotional ramifications of their complaining. But I validated their feelings by saying it's okay to feel this way. But I did something kind of normal, because if you were like on a date with somebody and you're like, it's like your third date and you go to like a baseball game. And let's say you go to a baseball game because he wants to go to the game, but you're not really into baseball. And you're eating a hot dog and, some peanuts or whatever. And the man who bought the baseball tickets looks over to the girl and says, hey, having a good time? What is the girl going to say on the third date? What is she going to say? Now, she's not really into baseball.
Right.
She's actually not having that good of a time. She's kind of hot. She's kind of sweaty.
Yes.
Of course she's going to say yes. Why is she going to say yes? Why?
She doesn't want to be awkward in the moment or really tell you the truth right then and there because she's still getting to know you maybe.
Of course. If she said, no, I'm not really having a good time.
Right.
It's like ruin the date.
Right.
She's such a downer. So with this is a little bit of a tricky one because we're validating the kid's feelings. It's okay if you don't want to be here. we're not giving them a lecture. You better appreciate this. We're in a nice Airbnb. It doesn't work. We're validating, but we're just asking him nicely to see the emotional ramifications of his actions, right?
Right. Okay.
And then he has to make a choice.
Yeah.
Is he gonna care for his mom's feelings or not?
And if he says no and he doesn't come around, then do you just tell him how it makes you feel and
Yeah,
do it
that's it.
hard talk
Yeah,
later?
absolutely. Absolutely. You just take a time out and
Okay.
you come back and you do another hard talk. That is the most effective, most powerful thing we can do with our kids, is connecting our hearts with them. And
That's good.
so let's wrap up our episode here today by just doing some quick success stories, really quick, because we're looking at over an hour episode here today. So success stories are a cool part where we just kind of look back on our lives or our kids. Tell me a little success story, my man.
All right. So just yesterday, we had a bunch of the kids over running around the house, and they were playing boys with the boys, girls with the girls. We have a trampoline. And all of a sudden, I see the hose getting turned on, and one of the boys is spraying the girls on the trampoline. And they're like, no, it's too cold. And they're like, haha, this is funny. So then the boys go on their day and they leave, and the girls are still there. And they're like, we have to get these boys back. We got to get them back. And I'm just watching this as a parenting thing. And I'm like, okay, you guys are going to get them back. So they come up with this master plan, and they get this bucket of water, and the boys went to another person's house. The boys come back, and the girls are like, this is our time. So they trick the boys into thinking that they're going to get something cool. They're like, we've got something great for you. And they made the boys put their jackets on backwards, blindfolded, and laid them down and dumped this huge bucket of water on the boys. Well, my son was crying.
Oh yeah,
living.
Yeah, he's not down for stuff like that. He's a sensitive kid. He doesn't like stuff like that.
He's so sensitive. And so to me, my success story is like, I told my daughter, I'm like, first off, you guys, as we're talking about this was good kids having fun. No one got hurt. You sprayed them. They got you back. And honestly, Emery, knuckle bump. That was really smart what you did. The boys, like, way to go. And then to my boy, I was like, listen, I'm sorry you're upset. I know that made you mad. And I was doing more of a heart to heart with him. And I calmed him down.
Little
and
empathy,
it was like
connection.
Healthy connection.
Help him process through the emotions he was going through.
He was upset, but it worked out. That's a success story.
That's one of the things we did in this story, and what we did is in the example of the San Diego with the stories, we're emotion coaching our children, because if we don't emotion coach them, then where are they going to learn?
Right.
And this is what we do as parents. Schools won't teach it. So I'm going to, for the sake of time, I'm going to combine my success story with my attitude of gratitude. Last night, like I said, we had 3 teenagers at the house. My daughter brought one of her best friends and these 2 dudes, 17 and 18. One's got a full-on beard. I got men in my house. And just to see wonderful, polite, kind kids in my house, enjoying the barbecue, being super polite and kind to me, just was so heartwarming. It was such
that's cool.
They would probably never guess that I am like talking about them on a podcast the next day, but that's the interweb of parenting, right? Of connected we are to our kids and our kids' friends. And isn't that, they would never guess like that, just their presence in my home for those 4 hours means so much to me. Yeah. And
that's when parenting is good, right?
Yeah, man. So, all right, wrap up our show with a little attitude of gratitude yourself. So I'm just so thankful for those kids and the opportunity to make burgers for them.
That's cool. And my attitude of gratitude comes to something I learned this weekend that was really cool. I'm just going to say it's community churches, or just the sense of community, right? Friends helping friends, people helping people. I think it's so cool when you can get involved with, people outside your own walls. Yes. And it really shows the love that can be spread, not just in your own family, but with others too.
It takes a village. Everybody stay strong, be close, and teach wisdom. And Jordan and I will see you next time.
See you, everybody.